Bear loved chasing squirrels. He never caught them, but that was not the point. The point was the running, the joy, the feeling of grass under his paws while his human watched from the porch with coffee in hand. Danny Reeves smiled as his German shepherd bounded across the Montana meadow. The dog was 7 years old now, gray appearing around his muzzle, but his spirit remained that of a puppy. Bear had saved Danny's life 3 years ago, though the dog would never understand that. When cancer took Danny's wife, he had considered ending everything. Then this scared rescue dog arrived at the shelter where Danny volunteered, and something changed. Bear needed him. So Danny stayed. The galaxy had changed in the 8 years since first contact. Alien ships now crossed Earth skies regularly. The Galactic Concord, an alliance of 12 spacefaring species, had established trade relations with humanity. Most aliens viewed humans as primitives, barely evolved creatures from a dangerous world who had somehow stumbled into space travel. They tolerated Earth, but did not respect it. Danny did not care about any of that. He had his cabin, his land, his dog, and his peace. At 52 years old, he had earned his quiet life. Bear suddenly stopped running. His ears went flat. A low growl built in his throat. Danny set down his coffee. He had learned to trust the dog's instincts. Bear sensed things before Danny could see them. The retired Marine stood slowly, his old training awakening like a sleeping wolf. Then he heard it, a rumbling sound from the mountains. Not thunder, something mechanical, falling, crashing through trees. Smoke rose from the forest 2 miles north. Danny watched the smoke for a long moment. His instincts told him to stay away. Whatever had crashed was not his problem. He whistled for Bear, and the dog reluctantly came to his side. They went inside. That night, Danny heard movement outside his cabin. Bear's growl woke him before his own senses could. Through the window, Danny saw shapes moving in the moonlight. Not human shapes. Taller, thinner, moving with the careful steps of predators. 3 creatures approached his home. They were reptilian, covered in dark green scales, with yellow eyes that reflected the moon. Each carried weapons Danny did not recognize, but understood perfectly. These were soldiers, hunters, Verkari. Danny had seen their species on news broadcasts. Pirates and raiders who preyed on developing worlds. The Galactic Concord hunted them, but the Verkari were clever and cruel. Danny grabbed his rifle from the cabinet. It was an old weapon by galactic standards, but it could still kill. Before he could reach the door, Bear pushed past him. The dog charged onto the porch, barking with all the fury his loyal heart could produce. He positioned himself between Danny and the aliens, teeth bared, protecting his human as he always did. The lead Verkari, a scarred veteran with one blind eye, looked at Bear with amusement. He said something in his own language that sounded like laughter. Danny shouted for Bear to come back. The Verkari raised his weapon almost casually. A flash of plasma lit the night. Bear fell. Danny screamed. He fired his rifle, but the other 2 Verkari were already moving, faster than anything human. One knocked the weapon from his hands. The other struck him across the face, sending him to the ground. The scarred one, their leader, walked past Danny without interest. He entered the cabin and began taking supplies. Food, water, medical equipment. His soldiers searched efficiently while Danny crawled toward Bear's body. The dog was still alive, barely. His eyes found Danny's face. His tail tried to wag one final time. Then Bear was gone. Danny held his dog as the Verkari finished their raid. They took what they wanted and left without killing him. The leader paused at the edge of the clearing and spoke in broken English. "Weak creature," he said. "Not worth the energy." They disappeared into the forest. Danny did not know how long he sat there. The moon crossed the sky. Dawn began to paint the mountains pink. Bear's body grew cold in his arms. Finally, Danny stood. He carried his dog to the spot behind the cabin where the wildflowers grew thickest in summer. He dug with his hands at first, then with a shovel. The grave was deep and proper. Bear deserved nothing less. When the work was done, Danny placed the worn collar in his pocket. His hands had been shaking since the attack. Now they stopped. His grief remained, vast and deep, but something else rose alongside it. Something cold. He walked to his basement. The door had been locked for 15 years, the key hidden where only he could find it. Inside was another life, one he had buried even deeper than he would bury Bear. Danny Reeves had not always been a peaceful man living alone with his dog. Before retirement, before Montana, before his wife, he had been something else entirely. Force Recon Marine, Black Operations Specialist, a man who solved problems that did not officially exist. He had left that world behind. He had chosen peace. Now, peace had been taken from him. Danny opened the cabinet and looked at what waited inside. Weapons, gear, tools of a trade he had hoped to never practice again. The Verkari thought they had raided a helpless primitive. They had no idea what they had awakened. Rain does not wash away tracks. It reveals them. Danny moved through the wet forest like a ghost, reading the signs the Verkari had left behind. Broken branches at chest height for a creature much taller than human. Clawed footprints in mud that did not match any earth animal. The faint smell of something chemical like burnt copper and rotting meat. They thought they were predators. They had never been hunted by something worse. In his years of service, Danny had tracked men through jungles where the trees blocked all light. He had followed targets across frozen mountains and burning deserts. The skills never left. They waited in his bones, sleeping until needed. Now they were awake. The Verkari camp sat in a clearing near their crashed ship. The vessel was large, built for speed and violence, now broken and smoking. Danny counted 7 aliens through his old binoculars. They moved with confidence, setting up defenses and working on repairs. The scarred leader, the one who killed Bear, barked orders at the others. Danny memorized their positions. He noted their patrol patterns. He counted their weapons. Then he retreated to wait for darkness. High above Earth, a Galactic Concord enforcement vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Meridian Dawn had been tracking the Verkari raiders for 3 weeks across 4-star systems. Lieutenant Nira Voss studied her scanner display with sharp golden eyes. She was Kalani, an avian species known for empathy and perception. Her feathers, deep blue and silver, ruffled with concern as she processed the data. They crashed, she announced. Northern region of the continent. Minimal life signs detected. Her partner, Constable Brex, rumbled in acknowledgement. The Torvani was massive even by his species standards, nearly 8 feet of muscle and brown fur. His people resembled Earth bears but walked upright and lived by strict codes of honor. Brex had served in enforcement for 30 years. He had seen much. Survivors? He asked. 7. Already establishing a defensive position. Nira tilted her head. Something else. A single human is approaching their location. Brex frowned. A hostage? Negative. The human is moving with purpose. Tracking them. The Torvani grunted. Humans were strange creatures. Fragile bodies from an impossibly dangerous world. They should not be able to track Verkari raiders. They should not want to. Contact Galactic Command, Nira said. Request instructions. The response came quickly. The Verkari were priority targets. One human civilian was not a concern. Focus on the mission. Do not waste resources on primitive matters. Nira did not like the order, but she followed it. Below, Danny waited for night. He moved when the moon hid behind clouds. The first sentry never heard him approach. Danny had learned long ago that the quietest kills required no weapons at all, just knowledge of anatomy and the patience to strike perfectly. The Verkari fell without a sound. Danny dragged the body into the darkness and continued. He did not use the alien's weapon. Too loud, too impersonal. The Verkari needed to understand something before they died. They needed to feel what Bear had felt. Fear, helplessness, the knowledge that death was coming and could not be stopped. Danny carved words into the dead alien scales with his combat knife. Human letters they would not understand, but would know were a message. For Bear, he left the body where the others would find it at dawn. Then he disappeared into the forest to wait again. Morning brought screams. The Verkari discovered their dead comrade, displayed like a warning. The scarred leader, Silith, examined the body with growing unease. His species were killers. They understood predation. But this was different. This was personal. Find it, Silith ordered. Kill it. Two hunters went into the forest. They were trained scouts, experienced in tracking prey across dozens of worlds. They carried the best weapons Verkari technology could provide. Neither returned. On the Meridian Dawn, Nira watched her sensors with increasing confusion. Two more Verkari life signs had vanished. The single human remained in the area, moving in patterns she did not understand. He is hunting them, she said. Brex studied the data over her shoulder. His black eyes narrowed. One human against 7 Verkari? Impossible. 6 now. 5. The Torvani went quiet. He pulled up files on human history. What he read made his fur stand on end. Wars that lasted decades. Soldiers who fought through wounds that should have killed them instantly. Cultures built around concepts like vengeance and honor debt. Contact the human, Brex said. Warn him that the Concord is handling this situation. Near a broadcast on open frequencies, she explained that enforcement was incoming. She asked the human to stand down and let the proper authorities handle the criminals. No response came. The human continued hunting. Back in the forest, Danny heard the alien transmission through the emergency radio he had taken from the 1st century. He understood enough to know that someone was telling him to stop. He turned off the radio. Bear had trusted him. Bear had protected him. Bear had died because Danny failed to protect him in return. No galactic authority could balance that scale. Only Danny could. He sharpened his knife as the sun set and prepared for another night of work. The darkness had teeth. Silith had led raiding parties across 40 worlds. He had killed more creatures than he could remember. He had faced Concord enforcement, rival pirate clans, and the natural predators of a dozen savage planets. Nothing had prepared him for this. His crew was breaking. 4 of them dead now, killed by something they never saw clearly. The human moved like smoke, appearing and disappearing without pattern or warning. Each morning brought new horrors, bodies arranged in symbols, alien blood painted on trees, whispers in the night that seemed to come from everywhere at once. We should surrender to the Concord, one of his remaining crew said. They will at least give us a trial. Silith grabbed the speaker by the throat. Coward. We are Verkari. We are the predators. We do not run from prey. But even as he spoke the words, he did not believe them. The speaker, a young raider named Krell, pulled free. His yellow eyes were wild with fear. That thing is not prey. I do not know what it is, but it is not prey. Silith killed Krell to restore order. The body fell at the feet of the 2 remaining crew members. They stared at their leader with expressions that mixed obedience and terror in equal measure. 3 Verkari remained. On the Meridian Dawn, Nira and Brex prepared to descend to the surface. Their orders had changed. Galactic Command wanted the situation resolved before more attention gathered. Brex armed himself carefully. He chose weapons designed for subduing, not killing. The Verkari were criminals, but they deserved trial. That was the law. The human, Nira said. What do we do about him? Bring him in as well. He has broken numerous statutes regarding self-appointed justice. The Concord will sort it out. Nira spread her wings slightly, a sign of discomfort. I have been studying human psychology. They form deep bonds with animals. Their concept of pets is almost religious in intensity. Irrelevant. Is it? She turned to face her partner. The Verkari killed his companion animal. A dog, they call them. Humans have lived alongside dogs for 30,000 years. The bond is ancient and powerful. To a human, killing a dog is like killing family. Brex considered this. His species also valued family above almost everything. Torvani blood feuds could last generations. Then he will understand when we explain the law, Brex said. He will accept that justice will be served through proper channels. Nira was not so certain. They descended to the surface as night fell. Their shuttle landed 2 kilometers from the Verkari camp. Sensors showed the 3 remaining pirates clustered near their damaged ship. The human was out there somewhere, invisible to their technology. We will approach the Verkari first, Brex decided. Take them into custody. Then find the human. They moved through the forest together. Brex's size made stealth difficult, but Nira moved silently on light feet. Her empathic senses swept the area, searching for emotional signatures. She found the Vakari easily. Their fear was overwhelming, a psychic stench that made her feathers stand on end. But something else was out there too, something cold and focused. An emotional void that moved through the darkness with terrible purpose. "Rex," she whispered. "The human. He is close." Before the Torvani could respond, a scream split the night. Then another. Then silence. They ran toward the Vakari camp. 2 more bodies greeted them. The aliens had been killed quickly, efficiently, without mercy. Only Silith remained alive, backed against his crashed ship, firing wildly into the shadows. His plasma weapon scorched trees and dirt, but hit nothing. "Show yourself," the Vakari screamed. "Fight me properly, coward." From the darkness, a voice spoke. Human. Male. Calm in a way that was more frightening than rage would have been. "You kill my dog." Silith spun toward the voice. "What? That beast?" It was nothing. A primitive animal. His name was Bear. The human stepped into the moonlight. Nira saw him clearly for the first time. Medium height, middle-aged, covered in mud and blood, some of it his own. His eyes were the coldest thing she had ever felt. No anger, no hatrith, just absolute, unshakable purpose. Silith fired. The plasma bolt grazed the human shoulder. Danny did not even flinch. He kept walking forward. "He saved my life," Danny continued. "He was my family, and you laughed when you killed him." Rex stepped forward. "Human, stand down. We are Galactic Concord Enforcement. This criminal will face justice." Danny did not look at the Torvani. His eyes never left Silith. "Your justice is not enough." He moved faster than either alien expected. Silith tried to fire again, but Danny was already inside his reach, too close for the weapon to aim properly. The human was smaller than the Vakari, weaker physically, supposedly inferior in every way. It did not matter. Danny fought with a precision that spoke of decades of training. Every strike targeted something vital. Every movement served a purpose. Silith was larger, stronger, and armed. Within 30 seconds, the Vakari was on the ground, broken and bleeding. Danny knelt beside his enemy. He pulled something from his pocket, a worn leather collar. "His name was Bear," Danny said again, "and you're going to die knowing that." Nira felt the cold purpose in the human's mind crystallize into something sharp and final. She turned away. She did not want to see what came next. Rex watched. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost like respect. Blood looked the same under any moon. Danny stood over Silith's body as the first light of dawn touched the Montana mountains. The Vakari leader had died badly. Danny had made certain of that. 7 raiders had come to his world, killed his dog, and walked away laughing. Now 7 raiders were dead. The worn collar hung heavy in Danny's hand. He had carried it through every step of the hunt. Bear deserved to be there at the end. Bear deserved to know that his death had been answered. "Human." Danny turned slowly. The 2 aliens stood at the edge of the clearing. The large furry one had not drawn his weapon. The bird-like one watched him with golden eyes that seemed to look straight into his soul. "It is over," the furry one said. His voice was deep and surprisingly gentle. "You can stop now." Danny looked at the bodies scattered around him. He looked at the crashed ship, the burned trees, the evidence of a battle that should have been impossible. 1 human against 7 armed aliens. Every military textbook in the galaxy said he should have died in the first hour. "Yes," Danny said. "It is over." His legs gave out. He sat down hard in the dirt, suddenly more tired than he had ever been in his life. The rage that had carried him through 2 days of hunting drained away, leaving nothing but emptiness. The bird-like alien approached carefully. She knelt beside him, keeping her movements slow and non-threatening. "I'm Lieutenant Nira Voss," she said. "This is Constable Brex. We are with the Galactic Concord Enforcement Division. Are you going to arrest me?" Nira looked at Brex. Some silent communication passed between them. "We have questions," Brex said. "But first, you need medical attention. That shoulder wound is not minor." Danny looked down. He had forgotten about the plasma burn. Adrenaline was a powerful drug. Now that it was fading, the pain arrived in a sudden wave. I do not care about my shoulder, Danny said. I buried my dog 2 days ago. Nothing hurts more than that. Nira's feathers ruffled. Her empathic senses felt the grief rolling off this human in waves. It was genuine and deep and overwhelming. Underneath it, she felt something else. Not satisfaction, not pleasure in killing, just a terrible, hollow sense of completion. Tell me about him, she said quietly. Your dog. Danny looked at her with surprise. No one had asked him that. His name was Bear. He was a rescue. Someone had abused him before he came to the shelter. He was scared of everything at first. Scared of loud noises. Scared of quick movements. Scared of being alone. Danny's voice cracked slightly. He forced himself to continue. My wife had just died. Cancer. I was ready to give up. But this scared dog needed someone. So I stayed. For him. He held up the collar. He saved my life. And I let them kill him. Rex stepped forward. You did not let them do anything. You were outmatched and surprised. The fault lies with the Verkari, not with you. Then why do I feel like I failed him? Neither alien had an answer for that. They sat with Danny as the sun rose higher. Nira cleaned and bandaged his shoulder with supplies from their shuttle. Brex stood guard, watching the forest with professional caution even though all threats had been eliminated. What happens now? Danny finally asked. Complicated question, Nira admitted. You killed 7 members of a recognized species. Yes, they were criminals, but technically you acted outside all established law. The Concord will want to investigate. Will I be executed? Brex made a sound that might have been a laugh. Unlikely. The Verkari Dominion will complain, but their position is weak. These raiders were already wanted for numerous crimes. Demanding justice for their deaths makes them look foolish. Then what? That depends on many factors. Nira paused, including how the galaxy reacts to what you have done. Danny frowned. The galaxy? Our ship recorded everything. Standard procedure. That footage has already been transmitted to Concord Command. Nira's golden eyes held something that might have been apology. It will not stay contained. These things never do. By now, half the galaxy has probably seen a human single-handedly destroy a Verkari raiding party with primitive weapons. Danny thought about that. He had not considered an audience. He had only thought about Bear. I do not care what the galaxy thinks, he said. You may need to start caring. Brex sat down across from him. The movement was surprisingly graceful for something so large. My species, the Torvani, we understand what you did. We have similar codes. When family is harmed, honor demands response. Many species will feel the same way. And others will be afraid. Brex showed his teeth in what was probably meant as a smile. Humans have been dismissed as primitives since first contact. Fragile creatures from a dangerous world who somehow learned to build ships. Tonight, that assumption died along with these Verkari. Danny looked at the bodies again. He felt nothing for them. They were obstacles that had needed removing. The only death that mattered was behind him, buried in Montana soil. I just wanted to live in peace with my dog, he said quietly. That is all I ever wanted. Nira placed a gentle hand on his unwounded shoulder. I know, and I'm sorry that was taken from you. They helped him stand. They walked him to their shuttle. Above them, the Meridian Dawn waited in orbit, carrying footage that would reshape galactic politics. Danny did not know it yet, but the reckoning was just beginning. 14 billion eyes watched the human kill. The footage spread across galactic networks faster than light itself. Every species, every world, every station and outpost saw the same impossible images. A single human, armed with primitive weapons, systematically destroying a Verkari raiding party in less than 2 standard days. Commentators struggled to explain what they were seeing. This must be staged, a Palori analyst insisted on one popular broadcast. Humans are class, 12 deathworlders by origin, yes, but they're soft now. Civilized. They cannot possibly compete with Verkari warriors in direct combat. The footage disagreed. On the Kalani homeworld, philosophers gathered to discuss the implications. A senior academic made the observation that would soon spread across the galaxy. We misunderstood them completely, she said. Humans did not survive their death world despite being weak. They survived because nothing on that world could stop them. They're not soft. They choose to be gentle. There is a profound difference. The Verkari Dominion issued formal protests to the Galactic Concord. They demanded justice for the deaths of their citizens. The hypocrisy was obvious to everyone. These specific citizens had been wanted criminals who violated multiple treaties. Demanding punishment for their killer only highlighted how dangerous those criminals had supposedly been. The Dominion quietly withdrew their protests within a week. On Earth, reactions were mixed. Some humans celebrated Danny as a hero. Others worried about the diplomatic consequences. Politicians gave speeches. Experts analyzed. Opinion polls shifted daily. Danny ignored all of it. He sat in a small room on the Meridian Dawn, staring at a wall. Nira visited him regularly, bringing food he barely touched. She tried to understand the depth of his grief, but even her empathic abilities could not fully grasp the bond between humans and their dogs. 30,000 years, she said one day. That is how long your species has lived alongside dogs. Danny nodded, but did not speak. We Kalani bond with our nesting partners. Torvani bond with their clan. But humans bond with everything. Other humans. Animals. Even machines, I am told. It is remarkable. It is exhausting, Danny said quietly. Loving things that can be taken away. Brex entered the room carrying a datapad. His expression was unusual for a Torvani. Almost excited. News, he announced. Good news, I think. Danny looked up without much interest. The Torvani High Council has formally requested that you be released into my custody. They recognize your actions as honorable response to unprovoked aggression. Under our laws, you committed no crime. What does the Concord say? They're discussing it. But the Torvani carries significant weight in Concord politics. Several other species have also voiced support for leniency. Brex smiled, showing large teeth. It seems you have admirers. Danny felt nothing at this news. He did not want admirers. He wanted bareback. But something shifted in the following days. Messages began arriving from across the galaxy. Thousands of them, then millions. Many came from humans on Earth, offering support and thanks. But many others came from alien species Danny had never heard of. They wrote about understanding loss. They wrote about the importance of protecting loved ones. They wrote about being inspired by a creature who would fight against impossible odds for something as simple as love. Nira showed him one message from a young Kalani. My nest sibling was killed by raiders 3 cycles ago. The Concord found the criminals, but they received minimal punishment. Standard procedure, they said. I have felt helpless and angry ever since. Watching your footage, I felt something different. I felt hope. Hope that justice can exist outside of systems that fail us. Thank you. Danny read the message twice. I did not do this for hope, he said. I did this for revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing, Nira replied. The Galactic Concord finally reached a decision. Danny would face no charges. His actions, while technically illegal, had addressed a situation that Concord enforcement had failed to handle quickly. The Verkari were already condemned. The human had simply accelerated their sentence. But the Concord wanted something in return. They wanted Danny to help them understand humans better. They wanted him to advise on a new initiative, partnering human volunteers with Concord enforcement teams. Why me? Danny asked when they presented the offer. A Concord diplomat, an elderly being whose species Danny did not recognize, answered carefully. Because you demonstrated something the galaxy did not know about humanity. Not your violence. Many species are violent. But your purpose, your focus, your refusal to stop until justice was complete. These qualities are rare and valuable. We wish to understand them better. Danny thought about the offer for a long time. He thought about Bear, buried in Montana's soil. He thought about the Verkari, confident predators who had never imagined that prey could bite back. He thought about all the messages from beings across the galaxy who had felt helpless and afraid until they watched a tired old man fight for his dog. If I do this, Danny said slowly, I want one condition. Name it. The first thing we teach them is why humans fight, not how. Why? They need to understand that we are not dangerous because we are strong. We are dangerous because we love. and love makes us relentless. The diplomat agreed. Across the galaxy, things began to change. The puppy had no idea he was being watched by a legend. Danny sat on the porch of his new cabin, watching the young Torvani hound explore the alien meadow. The dog was not a dog, exactly. The species had evolved on Brex's homeworld, bred for loyalty and companionship, just as Earth dogs had been. Different world. Same purpose. He had named her Scout. 6 months had passed since Montana. Danny lived now on a Torvani border world, in a small valley that reminded him of home. Mountains rose in the distance. Rivers cut through forests of blue-leaf trees. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth, but Danny had adjusted. Scout bounded back to the porch, dropping something at his feet. It was a stick. Some things were universal. "Good girl," Danny said, throwing it again. She raced after it with joy that asked nothing in return. Just like Bear had. Just like dogs had done for 30,000 years across countless homes on a small blue planet in an unfashionable corner of the galaxy. Danny still missed Bear. He would always miss Bear. But the grief had softened into something that no longer cut every time he breathed. He could remember the good times now without drowning in the bad ending. A shuttle descended through the afternoon clouds. Danny recognized the markings. Galactic Concord Enforcement Division. His guest had arrived. Nira emerged first, her blue and silver feathers bright against the alien sky. She had been promoted twice since Montana. Her reports on human psychology were now required reading at enforcement academies across 12 systems. Brex followed, moving carefully to avoid crushing the local flowers. The Torvani had requested reassignment to Border Patrol, specifically to this sector. He never said why, but Danny understood. Warriors looked after their own. "You look better," Nira said, climbing the porch steps. "I feel better." Danny scratched Scout behind her ears as she returned with the stick. "It helps having something to take care of." "The Concord Council meets tomorrow," Brex rumbled. "They want to formally recognize Earth's new status." Danny nodded. He had been following the news. In the 6 months since his hunt, everything had changed for humanity. Earth had negotiated full membership in the Galactic Concord, not just observer status. Human volunteers now served in enforcement units across the galaxy. They called them Bonded Ones. The name came from an alien misunderstanding of human psychology. Someone had written that humans bonded with their partners like they bonded with their pets. Total loyalty, complete dedication, willingness to die for those they considered family. The description was more accurate than anyone realized. "There is something else," Nira said carefully. "The Verkari Dominion has made a formal declaration. They are withdrawing from all sectors with human presence." Danny raised an eyebrow. "All of them? Every single one?" Brex showed his teeth in a Torvani smile. "Apparently your footage is still being studied by their military strategists. They cannot understand how you did what you did. So they have decided the safest response is avoidance. I was not that special. Any human in my position would have done the same thing." "That is exactly what terrifies them," Nira said. "Not that you were exceptional, that you were ordinary, that any human, pushed far enough, could become what you became." Danny thought about that. He remembered the rage that had carried him through those 2 days. The cold focus, the absolute refusal to stop until justice was complete. He had not felt like anything special at the time. He had just felt like a man who loved his dog. Maybe that was the point. "They want you to speak at the ceremony tomorrow," Brex continued, "as a representative of humanity, to explain to the assembled species what you showed the galaxy." Danny looked out at the valley. Scout had given up on the stick and was now chasing something that hopped between the blue leaf plants. "I'm not a diplomat. No one wants a diplomat. They want you." He considered refusing. 6 months ago, he wanted nothing except to be left alone with his grief. But things had changed. He had changed. Bear would not want him to hide forever. Bear would want him to run across meadows and chase squirrels and live. "Fine," Danny said, "but I'm bringing Scout." Nira laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "I would not expect anything else." The next day, Danny stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Concord. Thousands of beings watched him, some in person and billions more through broadcast networks. He was not good at speeches. He did not try to be. You want to know why humans are dangerous, he said. I can tell you, but I do not think you will like the answer. The chamber went silent. We are dangerous because we love. We love our families, our friends, our homes, and yes, our pets. We love so deeply that losing what we love can break us. But it can also make us into something that does not stop, does not sleep, does not quit until the ones who hurt us understand their mistake. He held up the worn leather collar. He still carried it everywhere. This belonged to my dog. His name was Bear. He was killed by beings who thought I was too small and weak to matter. They were wrong. And any species that threatens what humanity loves will learn the same lesson they did. Danny put the collar back in his pocket. We do not want war. We do not want conflict. We want to live in peace with our families and our dogs and our small precious things. But if you come for those things, we will teach you why our ancestors called Earth a death world. He paused. Questions? There were none. Outside the council chambers, Scout waited with tail wagging. Danny knelt to embrace her. In that moment, he was not a legend or a representative or a symbol. He was just a man who loved his dog. And that was enough.